ঠিক আছে এখন অলরাইট মুশারফ ভাই মিউট করেন জাস্ট মিউট থ্যাংক ইউ Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Still good morning, right? Yes, good. Uh,
Good morning.
Good morning. Honorable Session Chair, Professor Dr. Jayada Sharmin. Madam, are you here? Good morning, Manojda. Can you see?
Good morning. Yes,
Hello.
yes.
All right.
Hello, Habib. I'm here.
All
Hello.
right, madam.
Good
Welcome
morning,
you.
everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome you all. Actually, last two sessions we are 8 minutes late. That's why we are late here. So, myself, social worker Habibur Rahman, welcome you on the fourth and the last technical session today. We have started on 3rd of April and this is 6th of April. So many papers already been presented. Are you on live? So we are in the last session and we have closing remark tonight at 8 p.m. sharp Bangladesh time. So we are very delighted to have our honorable session chair, Professor Dr. Jayada Sharmin, co-chair Mr. Muhammad Samuel Istamul joined soon, guest speaker Monirud Jaman, not yet joined. And on behalf of Ruma Parveen, I'm here to invite you. So let's see how many presenters are here. Madam will gradually go on. So I would request Madam not to waste time. Just Madam, I'm requesting you to on the session, Madam. Please.
Okay. Thank you, Habib. Welcome all the participants and guests. The session, today's session on potential survival strategies during and post-COVID-19 era, a threat towards SDGs. Okay, SDGs, that the Sustainable Development Goals is very much important today's world and especially for us. Let's see our presenters what they will discuss regarding these issues. First presenter is Noore Jannat Nitu. She is a student of Shahjalan University of Science and Technology, Bangladesh, and her topic is a study on the role of e-commerce to sustain the women entrepreneurs Bangladesh during the pandemic situation 2020. So please, I'm requesting Noore Jannat Nitu to present her paper.
Good morning, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, ma'am, I'm starting. Is my PPT is clear?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's great.
You may start.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am Noor Jannat Nitu. Along with Dr. Zaida Sharmin, ma'am, I have completed this study on the e-commerce, women e-entrepreneurs and pandemic nexus in Bangladesh. So here our study is titled as A Light in the Darkness, a study on the role of e-commerce to sustain the women entrepreneurs of Bangladesh during the pandemic situation 2020. Bangladesh is working on number of projects and plans to execute its master plan Digital Bangladesh and is working on the execution of sustainable development goals, which is basically, and that means the Digital Bangladesh plan is basically based on 4 foundations. And according to the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the 4th foundation is making all the private sectors more productive through the use of ICT, that means information and communication technology. And that's why Bangladesh government has formed National ICT Policy 2009, which was modified in 2018, and National Digital Commerce Policy 2018 to encourage more youths to digital startups. But it is to be noted that only in one article of this whole policy, which is Article 38, the government has taken extra care or extra support for female e-entrepreneurs. And it is well known that equal rules are must for achieving these development goals like Digital Bangladesh or SDGs. But till that last year, that means till 2020, only 36% women has come to the paid labor market in Bangladesh, where 1.8% of these women are in informal sectors. But still, they were at their journey of being self-reliant and empowered. But in March 2020, the COVID-19 entered into Bangladesh, and from then the situation became too much difficult for women than men, as they became completely home locked. Their income had fallen down, their household chores had increased several times, and they became trapped at home to become sufferer of domestic violence. So during the lockdown and after the lockdown, the work from home culture started. And so the female employees of these offices had to start work online from home, though most of them were deprived of the technological resources before, as gender-based digital divide. And gender-based digital divide is a very harsh truth of Bangladesh. But even the digital commerce industry experienced ups and downs. But in this period, the increased involvement of women to the e-tail sector was so significant. And another argument came that production, marketing, consumer, and whole supply chain management became so tough at the time that because the postal service was seized, the internet infrastructure was fragile, women e-entrepreneurs had to manage their personal life, that means their work and home at the same time. So taking all this under consideration, we have conducted this research to identify the impacts of pandemic on the professional life of the female e-entrepreneurs and to analyze the influence of personal life on professional one of the Bangladeshi female e-entrepreneurs. And this is basically an analytical study where data have been collected from several secondary data sources. And to analyze the data, qualitative approach had been followed, where the findings are presented by narrative interpretation here. Okay, it is very important to know about the pandemic situation or scenario in Bangladesh before starting. And this health hazard had actually came on 8th March 2020 with confirmation of first 3 patients in Bangladesh. And only within 15 days, Bangladesh became the second most affected country of the South Asia after India. And the last status at the end of the last month, that means March 2021, the affected had crossed 632K in number and more than 9.2K had died. And here comes the main concern of our study, which is country lockdown. Bangladesh declared general holiday from 26 March 2020 with some orders for mass people, and this lockdown later had to extend it several times. But this lockdown affected the economy of this third world country so much that the government decided to ease on the lockdown rules. And on May 27, Prime Minister stated that economic activities have to be resumed for the sake of the lives and livelihoods of people. But obviously, experts criticized this decision. But still, government eased on the lockdown with some restrictions on social movements, prohibition on mass gathering, and maintaining social distance became must. But this order of social distance seemed to be very fancy and impractical step for a country like Bangladesh, as it has its own 180 million population with more than 1.2 Rohingya refugees in a very small territory. And another think work from home created another massacre, as most of the people were not familiar with this kind of office culture, and for that many sectors could not follow this approach. And for example, ready-made garments, that means the RMG sector, which is the largest contributor to the export sector of Bangladesh, had to lay off its 1/4 labor force, that means 25% labor force. Okay, so this was the outside scenario. The inside scenario, that means in home, the most common outcome of lockdown was domestic violence on women. And according to the Aino Shalish Kendro, in their human rights violation report, based on which is actually based on first 9 months of 2020, they found 432 cases of domestic violence, where 279 were murdered and 74 committed suicide. On another side, BRAC report said that women are complaining about the extra workload at home, and they complained that they were not getting enough time to take rest for extra workload at home. And BRAC found 85% of violence at the time was domestic violence. So to find the causes of this domestic violence, they conducted another survey and found that fear and frustration of losing job, being locked at home without income, and lack of food are the main causes of this domestic violence. And BRAC found that 85% of child marriage during this time was held because of the financial downfall of parents, and which was only because of lockdown. And according to the Manusher Jonno Foundation report, 4,249 women and 456 children were subjected to domestic violence at the time, and 1,672 women and 424 children experienced domestic violence for the first time, and that was because of lockdown. And here I have listed some cases of domestic violence of the first month of lockdown from several newspaper articles. You can see acid throwing, sexual, physical, mental torture, rape, murder by intimate partner, that means husband, torturing housekeeper, gang rape, child abuse. That means every single kind of domestic violence is included here. And at that time, domestic violence had increased 1.8 times more than normal days. And Brinda Grover said an interesting thing, that lockdown can't mean that you save me from a virus, but you expose me to another form of violence. So now if we focus only on the female entrepreneurs, we can see, according to the YBI report, only 4.3% businesses are owned by women in Bangladesh. And as Bangladeshi society is still a patriarchal society, women are not allowed to do business, as in business, communication with stranger or communication with customers are must. And women here are subjected to stay under porda, that means veil. But still, Bangladesh government is pursuing the youngsters with girls to choose entrepreneurship as career, and is working directly with BRDB, BSCIC, BRAC, Directorate of Women, BIM, MIDAS, and BTEC. But as online business need less investment capital, and here workplace and work time is flexible, and e-payment, because of e-payment system, the women don't need any face-to-face communication. So the Bangladeshi women is attracting to this sector day by day. And for this, they need obviously IT skill. And I have already said that they were technologically deprived before. So that's why BCC, A2I, UNDP Bangladesh, Ministry of Women and Children Affairs, Bangladesh Women Chamber and Commerce Industry, all are working on the IT training of women. And Bangladeshi girls are basically conducting their e-business using the platforms like Facebook, Instagram, but other platforms such as Daraz, Bagdoom, Ajker Deal, Eveli, etc. are also indirectly helping these women. And we, that means women entrepreneurs in Bangladesh, is specially working only for female e-entrepreneurs. And here, a very important fact is, e-tail has become a new normal of pandemic, and even the middle class people are entrusting this sector for shopping because of pandemic and lockdown. CEF, that means Chattogram e-commerce family, has reported 70% increase in number of e-business on their site during the lockdown period. But as raw materials collection, production, delivery, all these are outdoor activities and were strictly banned during lockdown, and customers' demand shifted from fancy products to grocery. It created difficulty for the entrepreneurs, especially for women entrepreneurs. But Facebook conducted a campaign named #BeDiscovered campaign for these e-entrepreneurs in the last December, and reported that 46% trader think their 1/4 sale could be possible only for digital tools. And 61% responded positively to the marketplace feature of Facebook. So if we summarize the findings, we can find that because of lockdown, labor market has changed. Unemployment, job shifting, work from home, all these were outcome of lockdown, where women became the most vulnerable victim, especially suffering sexual, physical, and mental domestic violence at home. But analyzing all this, we found 4 indicators of women's e-business sustainability during pandemic, and those are managing supply chain and acceptability and availability of e-facilities, change in customer pattern and the customer demand, and obviously support from family. So if we summarize the whole concept, we'll find that during lockdown period, though women business owners had to face some losses, but after lockdown, this new normal became a light in the darkness for those female e-entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Noor Jannat Neetu. It was really a interesting topic to discussion for nowadays. If anyone have any question to her, you can ask. Samuel, are you here?
Yes, ma'am. I
Oh,
think
okay.
after end of this presentation,
Yes.
we can join with the question answer discussion part, and
Okay.
then if anyone have any questions, then we will ask the presenter.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Then the
Session chair, madam.
yes.
We have a request to you as our guest speaker, Mr. Munirujjaman,
Yes.
not here. Already we offer Mr. Wilkins from Kenya being the guest speaker of the session. So he might add something later on of the session. Please
Okay.
add. Wilkins, are you here?
So please, is he here, already here in this session?
Yeah, he's here. I can see you. He's here. He will join. So no worry, madam. You can proceed.
Okay. Then thank you. Welcome. And then I'm requesting Manoj Kumar Sarkar, ED Development Professional, West Bengal, India, and he's going to present a discussion on means of survival during post-COVID situation. Please, Mr. Manoj Kumar, you are you can start your session. Welcome.
Good morning, and thank you, Professor Zaida Sharmin, ma'am. And thank you, Mr. Habibur Rahman, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. As the last presenter has rightly pointed out, the kind of challenges and being faced by people across Bangladesh, situation is similar or worse in India, because there are multiple other situations of migrant population. So I'll share my thoughts on after all this situation, how we all can come up with new strategies, new plans to overcome the challenges of COVID-19. So my paper titled Means of Survival During Post-COVID Situation. However, I am presenting at this point of time when we are facing the second wave of COVID. and the second wave is actually has hit India mostly, with around 1 lakh people are affected every day, and already we have crossed 15 lakhs cases in last 7 days. So that is quite alarming, and there are situations going beyond hand in some of the states. However, in West Bengal, the situation is still under control, but there are cases going up. So far as we all know that COVID has caused a significant effect on our day-to-day life, and starting from our family to our peer groups to school education to world economy and business and everything. It has jeopardized our entire life situation. And as a result, digital platforms have become more useful and has come in force. People have more dependency on digital platforms, using it for their businesses, using it for their studies, using it for other purposes of communications. But the other side of digital platform, as I saw here in India, where we had conducted a study to understand how this digital platform is actually reaching out to the students in the remote areas of the state of West Bengal. In India, it shows only 18% children have access to digital education, while in West Bengal, it is slightly higher to 24%. So it has not only, this COVID has not only created social distancing or physical distancing, but it has also created digital distancing among people. So that is also another set of problem, another set of social stigmatization of among people in the name of digital platforms, use of digital platforms for the purpose of our daily work. So there are a large number of people who do not have access to these mobile phones and thus remained out of all these communications taking place over the last 1 year in terms of the business, academics, and other forms of communications. On the other hand, the academic institutions remain closed and still now closed because of this pandemic. However, there are other areas like shopping malls, cinema halls, and other things have been open, except the academic institutions, particularly schools.
Excuse me,
Hello.
Dr. Monaj. Can you hear me?
Yes.
May I show you? May I see your presentation?
No, I don't have a presentation. I have a
This is
write-up
it.
only.
Okay. Okay.
So if that's what I don't have any presentation. So I'm just saying on some of the points that I have only.
Okay. All
No
right.
problem. You may proceed.
So this has caused prolonged closure of the academic institutions and the colleges, has not only created learning gaps among the students, but also created mental health issues, because children, the students, they cannot meet their peers, they cannot interact, and that has created another set of problems where counseling has become a very important areas of concern. During this new normal situation, some of the people have started resuming their work, and large number of migrant workers have gone back to their workplaces because they have no alternative here. So they have gone back to their original place of work and resumed their work. But what my earlier presenter was sharing, during this 1 year time, domestic violence and crime against children have increased substantially here in India also. And one of the major reasons have been the closure of schools and loss of job among large number of people. So these are some of the challenges which we have been facing across India and Bangladesh and across the globe as well. So here there are, but even after that also there are hopes alive for us to survive and overcome the situation. So in that case, what I feel that people who were earlier into different types of jobs, Now is the time to come out of that framework of job culture rather than starting out their own entrepreneurship, because that is a very self-led, self-managed activity which one individual can do of his own and according to his or her own choice. And this is probably the right time to start your own entrepreneurs when there are other opportunities coming up to survive and support people. Like here in West Bengal, like Adamas University is providing training for um, preparation of hand sanitizer, and they are also training for marketing of the same to encourage entrepreneurs among young people. So if these type of trainings, this is one example I'm citing out, but there are several other trainings going on for entrepreneurship development among young people. And those who have lost job, they can always opt for this kind of training programs and start their own business, which does not require large amount of money. Rather, it requires very small amount. Only it requires good communication and good networking with their friends, with their local people, and keeping the quality and standards of the product at par with what they have started with. So this is how one area of means of survival can be, like starting up with your own entrepreneurship. Meanwhile, in last 6 months time, what I have seen, several individuals with their wife or wife with their husband have started selling home-based cooked food to different families based on small orders. But they have flourished in last 6 months time, and now they have decided that they will not opt for any other job, but they will upgrade their present way of working of home delivery of food services. So this is how people are turning from their existing mode of job situation to self-led entrepreneurs and going up in a bigger way. And I would suggest that those who are still thinking of how to survive at this point of time, this is probably the right time to decide upon how to start as entrepreneurship and settle yourself with your being the self boss, because you have all the skills and opportunities, and skills are available in the market. You can opt for different type of skills from different sources, and different academic institutions are providing different skills training. Then if you can opt for such training, this could be one of the greatest opportunity which COVID has given us this opportunity to start up our own businesses. At the same time, what I feel is another means of survival is those who are into social science field, or those who have studied psychology particularly. They can start up with the counseling services of their own, because counseling has become a very significant part of our day-to-day life, particularly those who have problem of domestic violence, who are going through interpersonal relationship, marital relationship, depression, and all such issues. They have been struggling to overcome this situation, and mental health has become a serious problem across the globe. And so far as West Bengal is concerned, a large number of young adults, young population, they have been affected with this kind of mental health issues, being stuck at home for a long time. And quite a lot of them have committed suicide, which is very unfortunate, just because they didn't get adequate support from their parents, support from their family members, support from their peer groups, owing to this prolonged closure of academic institutions and lockdown across. So counseling has now become very much important, and those who are into psychology field, or those who are into social science field, they can think of starting up with their own small way of doing counseling services for these people who are in need of overcoming the challenges of day-to-day life. Those who are into yoga and meditation, they can also think of scaling up with their own initiative, because stress release is another important issue which yoga and meditation can always help out. And yoga and meditation, those who are into this field, or those who are planning to do something, they can opt for creating another source of support for their people to overcome stress. At the same time, these are some of the openings I can see at this point of time. But what I would suggest that given all these opportunities and scope here, parents of the children also need to spend quality time, because children are stuck up in home for over now and schools are closed. So they don't have any adequate space to ventilate their feelings, their angers, their happiness. So parents should give adequate time to their children. And since we are operating from home, business are getting into normal pace slowly. So there are scope of doing an additional source of businesses. Maybe what I told earlier, there are opportunities available in the market. And I know my several of my friends have started their own way of businesses, and they have started earning quite a good amount during last 6 months time. So be ready for a second source of income, because you do not know whether the second wave of COVID might uh, push you into another set of lockdown. So be ready for overcoming such challenges. And if you have the scope, just look out for a second means of earning, maybe through giving tuitions, giving through home-based cook food, or craft work, or counseling, or any other thing that you are able to and which people require. So this is how I see at this point of time, that these are the scope available for us across, and we can, if we think in a positive way, we can always overcome the challenges. And in the entire process of this changing situation, youth members of the society has a wider role to play in managing the situation, in guiding the younger people, and also taking lead in the process of changing situation, making people sensitize on different other social causes, and address the issues pertaining to their livelihood, pertaining to their academics, pertaining to their own psychosocial behaviors. So this is all about the means of livelihood, means of survival during COVID-19, post-COVID-19 situation. And I wish we'll together will be able to overcome these challenges and come to a point where we'll be able to lead a life with normalcy. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and thank you so much for patient hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Manoj Kumar, for your very timely discussion on the COVID situation, and you are suggested some steps how can we face this COVID situation in this period. And already we are in the second wave, and Bangladesh is already declared 7 days lockdown in all over the country, you may know. So we are really going to face another
Round of
economic, social,
challenges,
yes,
yes.
yes. So thank you for your important
Yes,
and
yes.
timely discussion. And
Thank you so
now
much.
you are welcome. And now I'm requesting Mohammad Musharraf Hussain. He is the assistant professor of social work in Daladia, what Thaladia Degree College, Gajipur, Dhaka. And he is going to discuss on history and heritage of Koch community in Bangladesh, a review. Please, Mr. Musharraf, you may start your session. I think you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Hello. Listen to
Yes.
me.
You
Yes,
are
yes.
clear. You can proceed.
You
Okay,
can
okay.
proceed.
Thanks to Professor Zahida Sharmin and Professor Habibur Rahman, and welcome to all. Today's fourth international conference at Dhaka, organized by Bangladesh People's University. This is Mohammad Musharraf Hossain, PhD Research Fellow, National University, and Assistant Professor of Social Work, Dhaladia Degree College, Sripur, Gazipur. Honorable Session Chair, dignified co-chair, respectable guest speaker, presenters, teachers, conscious listeners, and all of my well-wishers. Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining this conference today. I am looking forward to talking with you today about my research paper on history and heritage of Coast community in Bangladesh, a review. Now, I cannot show slideshow because of my personal complexity. So I am reading my paper. Hi everyone, I am glad to be here with you today. Now I would like to present my reading paper and with your kind consideration. The paper and discussion will be continue in both in English and Bangla while necessary. Everyone, firstly, I would like to say something about the aims and objectives of my study. The aims and objectives of my study is the major objectives of the study was to access and history and heritage of indigenous Coast community in Bangladesh. However, the specific objectives of the study were to know about the Coast communities, their religion, beliefs, traditional healing system, and to have knowledge regarding social structures of the community. And then now I present my methodology. The present study was based on secondary data. Data have been taken from various published journals, reputed books, articles, newspapers, magazines, conference abstracts, video documentation, and some national and international papers, and personal communication with Coast communities people. Now I discuss about the findings of the research. There are many indigenous people live in Bangladesh. The Coast is one of them. Coast is one of the most ancient ethnic communities in Bangladesh, where they do live in minimum 26 villages in Gazipur district and 22 villages in Sherpur district. Coast ethnic groups mainly live in north central and northeastern region of Bangladesh. They live in different areas, parts of deep jungle areas, noisy free, natural medicinal plant zone, and in the scattered territory for the purpose of life and livelihood. The Coast have been migrated from Bangladesh to India, Nepal, Bhutan, and China for their existence with different cultural beliefs, customs, behaviors, and values. Bangladesh is one of the poorest countries bearing various indigenous communities, where the Coast community is one of them. According to the McNeese, there are about 156,000 Coast community live in our country. And then, according to writer Vijay Kumar, the Pratibha Patrika 7 episode in Bangla year of 1369. The people of Coast community came in Bangladesh approximately in the beginning of 7th century. Also, most of the Coast live in Bangladesh in various areas, plains or highlands. Coast communities have their own socio-cultural history and heritage and traditions. They have their own rituals and beliefs, songs, quiz, proverbs, folk song, poems, and myths. Coast is one of the major ethnic groups of other indigenous groups in Gazipur and Sherpur district. They live along with their area with cultural heritage, religious values, traditional farming, traditional medicine, herbal medicine, traditional norms, and indigenous system of medicine. In Bangladesh, most people always like to stay very close of nature. Besides, they like to go frequently jungle for hunting and gathering in group in a collecting family's necessities. Then their lifestyle is very much struggling, but they are living in uniform mood in their own community. Yet they do not have any educational institution relating with their own culture and language. As a traditional culture, Kush community celebrates Chorak Puja, a fast Boishak in Bangla every year. Kush people of Bangladesh believe in Sanatan Hindu religion. The Kush community has a different socio-economic and cultural tradition. Their social system are separate with main societies of Bangladesh. Their family patterns, marriage system, inheritance laws, norms and values, habitation, housing, social structure, language, economy, religion, and beliefs, and healthcare, etc., are different from other tribal communities, and of course not consistent with the tradition of mainstream Bangladeshi common people. Tribal peoples, tribal practices play an important role in controlling the social life of process. When any kind of social problem arises within the tribe or their society, the elder create a way to solve all the problems in harmony. Mutual relations, sympathy, and solidarity are deep in the society. Historically, the coast of Bangladesh live in a small pocket of land who have different geographical and political ways of life. From the beginning of human civilization, coast community beings are used to relate with each other to cope with the advent of nature in Bangladesh. And then coast are mainly farmers. They either work in their own lands and agriculture labor of other lands. Along with these, they work as their traditional works as weaving, clothes, making houses and hardened mud, bamboo and cane works, etc. Most of the Kus are poor and are uneducated, so they are totally unable to raise their voice against all obstacles. Coping with them, the present socio-economic changes, the Kus do have some work for their earning, the small business, parts and animal rearing, rickshaw pulling, day labor, garments worker, construction worker, carpenter, resort caretaker, and different forms of laborers. The Kus are divided into mainly 7 groups. These 7 groups also have 100+ clans. Kus people depend on traditional medicine such as local healthcare providers like Kobiras, Fakir, and Ayurvedic treatment and traditional medicine practice. They resort and depend on their own system because of tradition, belief, and financial crisis. Even women don't want to go outside because of patriarchal and social norms. Most people do not kill or eat peacock, but they do catch peacock for feather for Ayurvedic and other medicinal use. But they release the peacock later on after getting on 1 or 2 feathers. Most community use leaves of marigold for different purpose of healing and bodily injury. Every houses will have marigold plant, which is considered as a medicinal plant for cough and cold. Most community use tulsi leaves, ginger, bashak pata, black pepper to cure cough and cold. For every Kus people take a small chicken with ginger, black pepper, garlic, turmeric, onion. They make a paste of all these herbs and stone and put it in a bamboo with the banana leaves and put it in fire. Kus communities have their own local healthcare providers who roam around the villages. When they roam around the village, they use bicycle and wood box. He keeps necessary medicine and equipment in the wood box. though this type of professional do not have any medical education. And then now I discuss about the food security. The rice is their staple food. Most of them are non-vegetarian. They eat vegetable, lentils, fish, eggs, and meat. They do not eat beef, but are very fond of pork. They like meat of rabbits and porcupines. They also like tortoise. They use oil, alkali, soda, and dried fish in cooking. Men of the coast society wear dhuti, lungi, and shirt. Women have a traditional dress called like leffen, which is the they wear domestic environment along with the type of dress and dress. The leffen is a three parts. Coast is a patriarchal society. Internickname marriage is prohibited. Although both joint family and single family systems are in there, their single family system is now predominant among them. The Coast people generally resolve their family disputes through the social arbitration. Father of the family takes all decision of the family and control as well. Coast people believe in a traditional Hindu religion. Already I explained Hindu religion, while they observe different Hindu religion festival like Durga Puja, Saraswati Puja, and Lokhi Puja. They also worship and pristine gods and goddess. Those people live close to nature and the prey to self and nature, because nature gives them a lot of facilities. Even then, sometimes their practice depends on nature. They collect from nature various instruments for Puja Parvan and another religious festival. Nature is much related to their religious practice. Now, I would discuss about the conclusion and some recommendation of the research paper, History and Heritage of Coast Communities. The Coast community have their dialects, tradition, healing method, and way of living. Naturally, the Coast people has to live very undeveloped and rustic area in our country. Most of the Coast youth lead their life below the poverty line with malnutrition, brutality, illiteracy, inhumanity with physical and mental desperation. They do not have any other mother language institution, so they are totally unable to raise their voice against all obstacles. The findings of the study reveal that the Coast are getting gradually marginalized and disadvantages in different chapters of real life. Besides, their present socioeconomic and cultural conditions do not deserve their history and heritage because of literacy, illiteracy, financial crisis, lack of consciousness, traditional customs, behavioral of introvertness, and proper government and non-governmental support. From the beginning of Coast civilization, they have been forming their own culture, customs, and ways of life. But the passage of time, most of them are now about to be extended. So the lack of their decline has been a matter of discussion is very urgently. That is why it is a matter of sorrow that they are now lagging behind from the Bengali communism at the site of culture, custom, education, and economical activities. So there has been a great discrimination between Coast community and Bengali community in the field of social construction and state policy. So our policymakers should come forward to do some better for the welfare of Coast community. Better of Coast community. Thanks to everyone. If you have any advice or suggestions, please share your information, ideas, and opinions. Thank you all, and thank you everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morshed Hussain.
Musharraf Hussain.
Sorry,
No
Musharraf Hussain. Okay, sorry. It was really an interesting paper, I think. But I have just a little suggestion. You know, is it your, I mean, any paper, MPhil paper or something like that?
No, MPhil paper.
Okay, part of the your research, I think. Is it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, are you
This is the
finishing your
personal
paper?
interest. This is
Oh,
my
okay, okay.
personal interest about post community in they live in Gazipur district. I
Yes, I
am
know.
the
I
man of
know.
yeah, yes,
I
yes.
know. I know little bit about them. But my suggestion in this period, in last 2 years, we are facing the COVID situation. So it will just you may do your further research on this situation, how those community faces the situation,
COVID.
I mean after the COVID situation, because yes, so it will be interesting research my consideration. Maybe
Thank you, ma'am.
you can find out how they those are the strategies of their cope up of this the situation of this COVID situation. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
ma'am.
then
I will
I
try my best.
am
In next time, I will research about how to face COVID situation in post community. Please pray for me.
okay, thank you very much. And then
Okay.
our next discussant is AHM Noma, founder and CEO of Development Organization of Rural Poor. And the topic is bottom lining mother and evidence-based sustainable development. So I am requesting Noma to present the paper.
Madam Noman, Mr. Noman, are you here? Probably not, madam. Mr. H.N. Noman is not here, and Dr. Bina Muniappa, so far she presented in another earlier session because of our schedule problem.
Okay,
And
no problem.
Jahidur Rahman is here. Mr. Jahidur Rahman is here. Sanam Paudel from Nepal, she is here, but Muhammad Shariful Islam is sick.
Okay.
He will not join,
So,
so rest two.
so we may request Mr. Jahidur Rahman to present his paper. The topic is psychosocial and economic impact of COVID-19, and I am requesting Mr. Jahidur to present his paper.
Dear Honorable Chair, listen to me.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. WSWD 4th International Conference 2021 on Solidarity, Community Resilience and Global Connectedness. Honorable Chair, Co-Chair, Coordinator, and all respectable research presenter and participant, salam to you and greeting to all. This is Jahidur Rahman, MPhil Fellow, Social Science Research Council, Planning Division, Ministry of Planning, and as a MPhil student of Department of Social Work, Jagannath University. The title of my presentation topic is Psychosocioeconomic Impact of COVID-19, the Services of Government, and the Necessities of Professional Social Work in the Context of Bangladesh. Objectives of my study: to review the psychosocioeconomic impact of COVID-19 in Bangladesh and how to the existing service and their limitation taken by the government. Another objectives of my study is to focus the importance of professional social worker in the context of Bangladesh. the methodology of these papers. This is a content analysis study which prepared based on secondary sources like articles, journals, books, newspaper, research paper, etc., which is used to collect information for authenticity. Psychosocial impact of the COVID-19, we know that all over the world is the effect of COVID-19. Our country is one of them. Increasing the domestic violence is very much high in our country. The scenario of psychosocioeconomic impact of our country, I share some data. In our country, at this present time, domestic violence is increased very much high. Statistics of only April 2020, 27 district of 24, 13,400 women and children also victim domestic violence very much. On the other hand, in COVID-19 period, we saw that on the disabled women faced very much domestic violence. According to the data of the Ministry of Social Welfare, in our country, 8,33,269 disabled women exist. Here, 47 women raped and 167 were faced different violence within the family member. 74.3% faced mental torture, 33.2% faced physical torture, and 10.3% faced sexual harassment. On the other hand, in COVID-19 period, rape situation is very much high. In our country last year, 4,500 and rape were occurred in our country. Only Dhaka city, January to October 2020, 525 women raped. Here, 36 gang raped here. In COVID-19 period, we follow a very much impact of family. Every day in Dhaka city, 39 divorces occurred. In 2 Dhaka cities, 5,960 divorces took place in only 5 months. 2,606 divorces in North City Corporation and 3,264 divorces in South City Corporation here at COVID-19 period. Economic impact is very much high. 68% family faced financial crisis. Among of the 46% maintained their family expecting to break their saving money. 43% family provided their family expected with the help of their relatives, and 21% have received government relief or grant. At this time, child marriage has increased alarming. Teenage girl has been married used to fake birth certificate. Other social problems also occur very much high. At this present time, in our country, face different types of social problems such as population explosion, poverty, child labor, education drop, juvenile delinquency, child marriage, family conflict, unemployment, drug addiction, dowry torture, women and child violence, prostitution, corruption, and other crimes is highly increased. Factor affecting all these
Just a minute. Zaidur Rahman, someone is talking at side.
Yes.
Probably
Yes,
Mohammed Hussain.
Yes. I already sent him message, but maybe he's...
Mohammed Hussain, sir, please unmute yourself. It's creating extra noise. We cannot hear. Mohammed Hussain.
Okay.
Madam, Host can
Yes.
host can mute all of the participants. I
But-
think host can play the
But
this role.
I am not the host, I think.
No,
I'm
she is
requesting the Mr. Habib.
Habib, yes.
He has the
Hmm.
control, I think.
Okay. I will make a phone call to Habib. Okay, no problem.
Please.
Okay, sir, can I start?
All right, madam. I'm here.
Please mute Mohammed Hussein. Uh,
Yes, please. Now it's okay. Mr. Zahidur Rahman, please continue.
Okay.
Sorry
Please
to interrupt
continue.
you. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Please continue. Yes.
Factor affecting the socio-economic impact of our country. It is the direct impact of COVID-19. Another factor is economic stress, social stress, family stress, and psychological stress. Poverty, loss of job, unemployment, decrease of income, life of staying home, stop of income source, new catastrophic experience under pressure in one way or another because of the corona, stress and anger, intolerance, hunger, lack of treatment, insufficient consume, unable to fulfill family demand, lack of food, lack of job, loss of business, stop of communication, physical abuse, non-payment of alimony, torture, demanding dowry, suspicious attitude of the husband, relationship with other women, men, drug addiction, importance, uh, conflict of the personality, bad temper, indifference to family, disobedience, not following the Islamic law, family cruel, extra marital affairs, ruin of the family existence and suspension. This is the main factor for psycho-socio-economic impact of the COVID-19 period. The services of the government, we know that in the period of COVID-19, our government declared different types of stimulus packages. Total number of the stimulus packages now stand at 23, with an overall outlay of Taka 1,24 and 53 crore, which is also 4.44% of our GDP. The government has approved stimulus packages to invest dynamism into cottage, micro, and medium industry to offset the COVID-19 shock, improve rural marginal people's livelihood, and the expand safety net or extreme for elderly people and the widows. Other beside Taka 100 crore will be provided to BSCIC, Taka 50 crore to Joita Foundation, Taka 50 crore to NGO Foundation to undertake in the various programs to improve the livelihood of the marginal people, Taka 300 crore to be Social Development Foundation, Taka 300 crore to fulfill the Daridro Bimochan Foundation, Taka 100 crore to Small Farmer Development Foundation, and Taka 300 crore to Bangladesh Rural Development Board. The size of the second stimulus packages is Taka 1,200 crore, and it will be spent for the bringing 4 people, widows and husband, abandoned women of some 150 upazila under the government allowance in the next fiscal year. We know that the other social safety net program our government also provided. A total of 145 social security project or program under the 23 ministries or departments are provided by the government. One of them, widows and women abandoned by their husband allowance, orders allowance, destitute handicapped allowance, destitute student, educational stipend, disabled person services and assistance center, food and health assistant for the worker, a special allowance for the Hijra, Vede, and the backward group, rural service, rural social service, urban social services, maternity allowances, etc. etc. It is my last part of the study, necessities of professional social worker. In our country, government allows different stimulus packages and provided it. Why the social worker, especially the professional social work, is very much needed in our country. Due to the effect of the COVID-19, psychosocial economic problem increased very much in our country. On the other hand, government has announced different stimulus packages. These were good initiative for the nation, but there are different lack and limitation to fulfill their purposes. One of the lacks is lack of the professional working body who know how to cope with the crisis situation, lack of systematic working procedure, lack of proper data and information uh, where included who is for or not, who is very much out of for. Lack of the method, techniques, theory, model, strategies, lack of principle, norms and values, lack of coordination, proper participation, supervising, monitoring, evaluating, lack of transparency and accountability, lack of proper democratic attitude and behavior. Where a proper social worker has uh, knowledge, skill, he can provide the services, uh, a scientific procedure. We know that social worker is a professional person. At COVID-19 period, we looked at developed countries such as USA, China, or other developed country, social workers play a vital role. On the other hand, our country is a developing country. Here, the professional social worker is very much needed because we have planned different such as we have SDG 2030, we have 8 5-year plan, we have the Vision 2024, we have Delta plan 21,000. If we want to fulfill this uh, SDG, Delta plan, Vision, we need the professional worker body in our country. It will play a vital role in the context of Bangladesh. So, uh, last one, I suggest some supervision that our government should include the professional body in the context of Bangladesh and ensure proper implementation of law, stop child marriage, raising awareness among the society people, proper enforcement of existing law, control corruption, practice proper democracy, transparency, good governance, concern among the people, proper participation, proper accountability of the related person. For better solution, need professional body and follow the religious value. Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Moderator, Chairman, and Co-Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jahidur Rahman, for your nice presentation. Now, I think our last presenter will be Sanam Paudal, I think. Sanam, are you here? Okay. Now, please, Sanam Paudal, she is associate of psychologist in Nepal, and her topic is if they cannot come to us, we should go to their neighborhood. Um, and I am requesting Sanam to present her paper. Please, Sanam, the session is yours. I think you need unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Warm welcome from Nepal. Namaste, everyone. I'm going to present today mobile counseling camp services in Kathmandu Valley. My title is If They Cannot Come to Us, We Should Go to Their Neighborhood. It's my title, and as a profession, I'm psychologist, and I work with the woman and girl and children. Especially, I work with the issue with woman, girl, and children's issue since 2004. And I think this is very new concept in Kathmandu Valley. We work with the women and minors, especially minor girls, work in the entertainment industry. As you all know, I think entertainment industry means the girl and woman, minor children who work in the entertainment sector. I mean dance bar, massage parlors, and cabin restaurants and dori restaurants, especially in Nepal. It's mostly in the hotspot of Kathmandu Valley. Okay, I'm going to present actually it's my work, everyday work, and I'm trying to like it's my everyday work, and which I'm going to work with the woman every day. It's mostly they are survivor and trafficking victim, sexually abused children, girls, especially minors. And I work in the the shelter home, which is run by an NGO, and it's my daily work, and I'm going to present my work. I hope it will be it will be new for all of you. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to start. Is here, you see? You see? Hello? Ma'am? It's seen?
Not yet. No, not yet.
Especially request on the host.
Okay, I think it's yeah.
Yes,
It's
yes,
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 Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonam. You may start.
Okay. So my title is Mobile Psychosocial Counseling Camp Services. If they cannot come to us, we should go to their neighborhood. Yeah. And if the girls who work in entertainment industry, they cannot come to us to take their services, so we should go to their neighborhood to provide them psychosocial counseling services. Yeah. It's introduction. The woman and girl employed in the entertainment sector often enter unwillingly by trafficking or through a lack of alternative means to survive. Factors influencing this situation include extreme poverty, illiteracy, unemployment, abusive or dysfunctional families, and gender-based violence. The development of a sex industry in Nepal was offered the circumstances to expand due to the nationwide armed conflict from 1996 to 2006. Which may lead the girl to come in the city. The development of a the dislocation of many rural populations saw an increase of movement to the cities, creating housing density issues and high unemployment. This pushed many unskilled and illiterate women and children into the entertainment sector, where they are often forced into or at risk of sexual abuse and exploitation. Having established itself, the industries had maintained momentum, and there is an absence of appropriate law and policy to prevent the exploitation of those working within it. It's my objective is the prime objective of the mobile counseling camps are to outreach as many as girls, hear their problems, establish relationship with them, provide psychosocial counseling services, and open up door for further support to them, to understand their current situation and identify their immediate and longer time needs, to provide information and awareness through interesting games and gift in the camps. Because these girls, they don't like to receive this kind of services because they are unaware of about these psychosocial counselings which helps them, but they are very unaware. So we provide interesting games and gift in the camp while they come to receive the service. To conduct mobile counseling camp 3 times a year in the hotspot of AES, Adult Entertainment Sector. It means hotspot of Kathmandu Valley and surrounding district. And in first phase, 3 camps was conducted in the valley, from which the major source district of the camp participant will be identified. Then 3 major district will be selected, and 1 camp each 3 district will conducted. And my methodology is the methodology. The methods of data collection include a researcher-administrated survey. The survey was conducted in Kathmandu and included 532 women who currently work in the adult entertainment industry. The survey sample was gathered from voluntarily participants of a CAP Mobile. CAP means the NGO where I'm working. CAP Mobile Counseling Service, through which free healthcare, counseling, and legal advice are offered. These participants are sourced by cold calling entertainment venues. Questions were posted about ethnicity, age, marital status, educational level, income, and employment history. Additionally, the women were asked to provide reason for any discontinuation of formal education, the factor that lead them to work in the entertainment sector, their experiences of work, and their experiences of abuse or violence against them. And its result summary is like in Nepal, as you all know, is caste system, Brahmin, Kshatri, Dalit, Janjati, Madesi, Thakuri, and a category of other. The result indicate that the most common ethnicity is Janjati. As you all know, Janjati means there are 4 castes in Nepal and many other castes, many castes in Nepal existing in Nepal. So Janjati, of the 532 women surveyed, 309 are Janjati. The least prevalent ethnicity is Madesi, who are from Tarais, with only 2 women identified with this group. Age distribution had 3 possible ranges: less than 15, 16 to 30, and 31 to 45. The survey found that 79.5% of women are between the ages of 16 and 30, while 14.8% are below the age of 15, and 5.6% are bracketed between the age of 31 and 45. The marital status of the woman working in the entertainment sector was divided into the category of married, unmarried, separated, widow, and not applicable. Unmarried included women who live alone or with other women, their families, and women who have a boyfriend but are not married. The category not applicable significant that there was insufficient information to answer the question. At 44.74% of the coherent unmarried women are most represented in the entertainment sector. Those that are married followed at 41.73%. The educational level of women in the entertainment sector ranges from illiterate to the achievement of a bachelor degree. Most commonly, informant had attended but not finished a formal education program, with 249 women, 46.80% holding an education level below the school leaving certificate (SLC), which is granted upon successful completion of grade 10. The majority of a woman claimed to have left school due to the difficulty of receiving an education, 33.57%, or economic issue, 27%. Other reasons included marriage, parental pressure, lack of time, pregnancy, family problem, and fear of Maoist People's War. 23.94% claimed a lack of interest as the motivation to leave. Approximately 28% of the sample population declined to prove information about prior employment. Those that responded, 381 of the 532 women surveyed, described history of farming, 27.3%, domestic worker, 18.11%, factory labor, 4.2%, and other, 15.22%. The category other included self-employment, employment in the entertainment sector, study, foreign employment, and employment at a private institution. Most frequently, informants had no work experience at all prior to their entry to the entertainment sector, 35.43%. From the total sample of women currently working in the entertainment sector, places of work were identified as cabin restaurant, restaurant with internal partition for private service, dance bar, bar with female dancer as entertainer, dohri, venues for traditional Nepali song and dance performances, massage parlance, open restaurant, small snack, snack shop, category of other and none. 51 of the 532 women declined to answer. When asked about income, 74 of the 532 women declined to answer. Of those willingly to offer information, the average monthly income ranged from below 5,000 NRS Nepalese rupees to above 3,500 Nepali rupees. However, 51% of these respondents reported earning of less than 5,000 rupees per month, and a further 37 of less than 10,000 NRS per month. Under 2% of the women sample had a monthly income greater than 15,000 Nepali rupees per month. Under 6% earned on the basis of commission, making monthly earning unclear. Means by which women were introduced to employment in the entertainment sector included friends, 75%, 64% relatives, 16.94% agent of traffickers, 13% and other entertainment workers, 7%, 10% claimed to enter without any fence, see table 9. When asked, physical violence and sexual harassment, 52% of women surveyed had experienced violence against them prior to their entry into the entertainment sector. This was overwhelmingly in a domestic context at the hand of husband, boyfriend, or relatives. A further 6% of respondents proffered specific reports of sexual harassment, grouping sexual abuse, rape, and physical violence. When asked if they had experienced violence, 42% of women from the total survey group declined to respond. Physical violence and sexual harassment in this current occupation, 84% of women have been pressured into performing sexual services, touching 53%, sex talk 6.4%, sexual intercourse 2%, and masturbation 0.19%. 95% of these women claim that the pressure comes from customer. Physical violence and sexual harassment. The women survey also reported on the frequency of psychological, physical, and sexual abuse from customer and employers. Most typically, women responded with the category of sometimes 98.56% of women to 81.64% depending on the form of harassment, followed by often and very often and never less than 1%. The smallest number of women, 0.33% to 0.38% depending on the form of harassment, reported that abuse occurred rarely. Existing the entertainment sector. Of the respondents to the survey, 37% stated that they had to ask their employer for payment or for payment to be on time. 91% of the respondents felt that they could leave the adult entertainment sector at any time. Approximately 93% of the respondents stated that they would leave the industry if they could find a better job. The desire for a shift in a profession stemmed from fear of stigma from family and friend and consequent disownment 35%, insufficient income 33%, feeling of personal shame 22%, and instead of mistreated 10%. Equally, 93% of respondents would not and do not recommend this line of work. Of other employment options, 61% expressed an inclination toward vocational training such as sewing, beauty parlor therapy, driving, cooking, or other 4%. Approximately 51% of the respondents do not hold Nepali citizenship. 98% of the respondents have no knowledge regarding violence against women law and policies. So my conclusion is, from the result of this survey, we can conclude that women working in the entertainment industry are overwhelmingly young and predominantly of limited education. Official marital status seems to have minimal bearing on a woman's likelihood of employment in this sector and subsequently on her likelihood of being mistreated, abused, or sexually exploited. Previous work experience or the lack of it indicate that a large proportion of women come from rural origin, moving to Kathmandu in pursuit of higher wages and greater opportunity, yet find themselves in a situation in which they are still minimally paid, regularly mistreated, and while it is not officially acknowledged, frequently pressured into enchanting some form of uncurrent sex work. Further, many women express performance for different work, suggest a need not only for reform of the protection guideline for women in the entertainment industry, but for opportunity for further And now this time is COVID pandemic. So all the entertainment industries are closed. The women are in very troubled situation these days. They are having many psychological problems these days. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yes, Ms. Sanam, it's really it was an interesting study, I think, and your presentation was very good. And these are the daily life problem, or the
Yes.
girls and the adolescent and the worker. I mean, who are working in this sector. It is really you are trying to find out the real scenario. Thank you very much, because you know, when we are talking with the girl who are working in the, especially in the parlor or this type
Yes.
of industries, we found that in daily life these girls are facing this type of problem, and COVID really
Yes.
make them very vulnerable in this
Yes, ma'am. These days they are having many psychological, many more
yes,
psychological problem, but all are stopped. These
yes.
industries are stopped these days. They don't have work, so
Yes,
it's
yes,
very difficult situation.
and your idea and your works is really very much important for them, I think. So
Yes,
you,
ma'am. Yeah, yes.
yes,
They could not come to us to receive our service because we are offering them to psychosocial counseling services, but they couldn't come to our office or our services. They don't know about the importance of these
yes,
services.
yes,
So
yes,
we go to their neighborhood
yes. Okay,
to organize this kind of session. Yeah.
thank you,
Thank
Sonam.
you. Thank you very much,
So
ma'am. Namaste from Nepal,
namaste.
Kathmandu, Nepal. Thank
Okay,
you,
thank you.
everyone.
So now I think we're end of the presentation session, and Habib, are you here? I think yes, and I think now the floor is open, and I am requesting our honorable co-chair and the guest speaker to discuss their opinion regarding the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Could I start, ma'am? Honorable Chair of this session, Professor Dr. Jayada Sharmin, Head Department of Political Studies, Shahjalal University of Science and Technology, Sylhet, Bangladesh. I'm also delighted to share that I feel honored to attend in this technical session as co-chair with my respected mentor. Respected guest speakers, moderator, and dear distinguished paper presenters and participants from home and abroad. I congratulate all paper presenters who shared their research findings with us. It is very much interesting to me that the theme of this session is potential survival strategies during and post COVID-19 era, a threat towards sustainable development goals. It is definitely important issue for the governance who serve the nation. It is an opportunity to learn many things delivered by the wonderful presentation. I would like to mention one of the presenter, Noori Jannat Neetu. She has presented the pressing issue entitled The Role of E-Commerce to Sustain the Women Entrepreneurs During the Pandemic. She has tried to highlight vital issues related with e-commerce, special focus of women entrepreneurs, and explore some challenges for the women entrepreneurs during the global pandemic in respect of Bangladesh. I would like to mention another presenter, Dr. Monaz. He has also presented crucial topic, namely means of survival during post-COVID situation. He also stated the necessity of yoga and meditation to release depression of strugglers. He focused on youth group to take significant role for managing this situation. Mr. Hussain presented a review work on history and heritage of Koch community in Bangladesh. He introduced that community with us, particularly their livelihood, food behavior, religion, indigenous medical treatment, culture, marriage system, and living area. Mr. Jahidur Rahman has also delivered his nice presentation. He has presented the findings of his study entitled On Psycho-Socio-Economic Impact of COVID-19, the Services of Government and the Necessity of Professional Social Worker in the Context of Bangladesh. It has specially focused on different unwanted violence which occurred during this pandemic. And last presenter, Ms. Sanam deserves thanks for her great job. She has presented significant research work entitled on If They Cannot Come to Us, We Should Go to Their Neighborhood, Mobile Psychological Counseling Camp Services. She has also presented appreciating research findings from the experiences of Nepal. This is definitely new knowledge for us. Lastly, I strongly believe that it is an excellent platform to share findings of research works and views of the researcher. The outcome of this conference may facilitate to policymakers of the country and review public policies on the basis of the community people needs. Again, I'm really grateful to Mr. Habibur Rahman, who organized the wonderful conference during global pandemic situation. It is not easy tasks during this pandemic, but it is reality. Mr. Habib made it possible by his strong wishes, leadership, and relentless efforts. Thanks to him once again. Thank you for your patience hearings to me. Thank you, respected
you.
session chair.
And thank you, Mr. Samuel. Now I am requesting Mr. Wilkins. He is with us, I think. I just requesting you to share your thinking with us as a guest speaker.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you for the organizers, Professor Rahman, and all the panelists and all the presenters. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I've listened to the presentations and they are quite timely. I find them very, very interesting, and they add a lot to the knowledge gap that exists. And especially many people have the questions of what next after COVID, or maybe post-COVID, what happens? And most of the topics that have been discussed in the area of psychosocial support and other interventions. And I really liked one of the presentations. Actually, there are two presentations specifically on that, on psychosocial support. Yeah, so you find there are so many psychological related issues. But of course, even yesterday and other times, we have listened to economic implications related to or accompanied by the occurrence or the coming in of COVID-19. So I really appreciate all the presenters and even the organizers of this conference. We've had quite a lot of engagement and interaction with the information from all over the world, Nepal, other places, Bangladesh, Kenya, where I am. And I really appreciate being part of this. And my request or my humble request would be, we need now to move it to the next level of now, especially where we just did review of literature or that kind of thing, or maybe just empirical studies. We go to an extent of implementing, or maybe now making it actionable on what we have discussed, and as well as even publishing this work so that it is shared outside to other people who did not get the opportunity to present or even to attend this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Now, Habib, Habib, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
I come in.
Okay,
Thank you,
I
madam.
think we are the end of the session.
All right, madam, thank you. Actually, we will lastly talk for a few minutes. I was attending both the
I
sessions
understand.
because, yeah, there are a few more sessions were there, but so far I could hear all the presenter like Noor Jannat, Nitu, Mr. Manoj Kumar Sarkar, Muhammad Musharraf Hussain, Jahidur Rahman, and lastly, Sanam Paudel from Nepal. She is very close friend of mine. Actually, they all are presenting very nicely. We're presenting very nicely. But my last talk on behalf of organizing team, as this is the last session, technical session, and another was is already finished. So just for informing you all, we have been running this since 3rd of April, consecutive 4 days. This is the last day, and we have our closing remark today at night, today night at sharp at 8 p.m. And it will be on after 9:30, and all the speakers,
Mr. Habib.
participants, who's there?
Hello, Mr. Habib Ali Waqqas. Sorry, Ahnaf Zahin Cholas.
All right, yeah, please.
Ali Waqqas, but
Right.
instead of Ahnaf Zahin.
Okay, I can guess here, please.
I want to say something this session. Please allow me.
All right, Honorable
Yes,
Chair,
yes.
please.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Akas, you are welcome to.
Sorry, Ahnaf Zahin is my children.
Yes, we understand. This is the COVID period, and
All right.
all these are occupied by our
Yeah,
children. Yes.
Okay, carry on for next
I will
2 to 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Habib and session chair. I am unable to connect video because of some limitation. We have enjoyed wonderful and historic conference during pandemic. Good noon, everybody, especially honorable chair of this session, Professor Jayada Sharmin from Shahjalal University. Dear respected audience, learned paper presenter, distinguished social worker, Mr. Habibur Rahman. Thanks, organizer, for allowing me to say something in this session. Now, maybe things today's session theme is potential survival strategies during and post-COVID-19 era, a threat towards sustainable development goals. Today, we are facing threat by COVID-19 severely. Its impact on our various fields in our daily social and environmental life. But sustainable goals or motto, we are the next destination, basically free from poverty, quality education, zero hunger, good health and well-being. All types of target hampered by COVID-19. This is the fact of COVID-19. On the other hand, our government, present government, initiated 15th February 2020 Prospective Plan 2041. It's our motto, it's our vision, it's our target to achieve developed country by the 2041. But pandemic situation severely impact on our SDGs, impact on our Fifth Five-Year Plan, impact on our 2040 perspectives. What can we do? This is the real issues. Because of COVID-19 attack, basically impacts on our production, impacts on our employment, impacts on our education and environment. So it's a very tough job. How will we recover? How will manage? How will we adjust or adapt or cope with new normal policy? Because it's a very crucial issue. It's a very tough issue. We try to reach within 2041 our GDP rate 9.9 to 9.9, like 2 digit, but it's a quite impossible for today's scenario. This time, I think we will reorganize our strategies, policies on the light of new normal environment. We try to work from our home, shifting pattern of job, adaptation, adjustment, because our government try to initiate or policy taken for citizen, plan for citizen, ultimate target, well-being, adjustment, enhancement for the people of community. So we hope we overcome it. We overcome the pandemic situation. Then as a Bangladeshi, I will believe we'll reach our target within the 2041. Now we are facing severe problems, severe crisis, but we are trying to adjust new normal policies. Thank you, session chair. Thanks to social worker Mr. Habibur Rahman and everybody for sharing and allow me for say something today's session. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Wakas, for your very important discussion. You mentioned that we need to develop our new normal policies, and I think we all are working for that, and we will we will face the problem together. And I think the whole motto of this conference is we all work together. It is the motto, I think, that we need to work together to face the COVID situation and the challenges of this. Okay, Habib, you may.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Actually, we are very honored because during this pandemic, initially we were actually confused what can be happen. And if I follow your last word, our motto is to work together. And this time we declared that sharing is caring. It should be the process of development that would be better. I think there might have been sharing process. That's why, you know, this is for the 4th time initiative from our side to host this type of conference consecutive year. And this year, actually unexpectedly huge number of scholars from different areas, not only from social work, from different disciplines attended very spontaneously, and it was an amazing gathering. COVID actually made it possible because before COVID, and many people find COVID as a pandemic, but I do believe pandemic always comes with so many other challenges and opportunities together. So we just try to make it opportunity instead of challenge, because social worker and we all the social scientists, we do believe to transform challenges to opportunities together. So I'm very thankful to have wonderful speech from Professor Samuel, Muhammad Samuel. Actually, he's very, as we are close to the end, so we should add some, not informal, some good words. Professor Samuel actually added very, very wondering and wonderful comments over all the sessions. Wilkins from Kenya, he's a very close friend of mine. So Wilkins, thanks again. For me, so far, I think many friends around the world stop sleeping because always I knock them. So it's very tough for them to manage the time and make close of the difference. So thanks again. And Sonam, also Sonam Paudel, thanks again. Hope to see you at night. Our closing session. Thanks, Professor Ali Wakas. Again, you are very inspiring person to all of us, I think. And of course, Muhammad Musharraf Hussain, my big brother and our respected brother, he presented nicely on all other presenter. Our sincere regards to all of you. And Mr. Manoj Sarkar, Manoj has a development professional. Basically, his organization's name is Development Professionals in West Bengal, India. We have an MOU with CSWPD and Development Professionals. We are working together. We will work together in future. And I could see other friend just join, Adi Pinjan from Philippines. Adi is a regular friend, and Anisha Bishash. So many other friends are here. Mr. Abul Kashem is here. Abul Kashem, he is DGM of PKSF. He is encouraging personality of this. So actually last 3 days, this is the 4th day. We are I shouldn't say running after the energy, but we try to keep our energy till ending. And this is the happy ending for the technical session. So for I think 15 technical session, 13 technical session, 3 plenary session, 2 keynote session, speakers from IFSW, IASSW, ICSW, ICSD, and from psychological platform, social science, different other areas platform, actually people joined us. That was amazing. So on behalf of the organizing whole team, from my volunteers, media partner, we again convey you sincere regards. And lastly, I'm just conveying our gratitude from this session, our academic partner, Department of Sociology and Social Work, the People's University of Bangladesh, our international associates, Daegu Association of Social Workers, South Korea, Junmin Kim, Happy Care, South Korea Development Professionals, West Bengal, India, and Accompaniment Therapeutic Association, Argentina, National Associates, Department of Narcotic Control, Ministry of Home Affairs, Bangladesh, UDPS, Uttara Development Program Society, Work for a Better Bangladesh Trust, Health 21, Institute of Wellbeing, International Lions Club of Uttara Professions, DBF, Amra Shobai Foundation, Safe from Multimode Commodities, Human Wellbeing Foundation, RDO, Metropolitan School Gajipur, Basli, Bangladesh Association of Sign Language Interpreters, and MUB 92. Lastly, the media partner, Jamuna Television, and FM 90.4, Arts IT. We are very grateful to all of this, and again hope to see you at night at sharp 8 p.m. Bangladesh time. Till then, Allah Hafiz everybody. Madam, we all together can say stay safe and goodbye for this session. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Habib. Thank you all. Have a good
Thank
time.
you.